Welcome. In this lesson, we're going to talk about a couple more things that'll help you with some creativity and some things you may not have known. So we're going to go ahead and select the rounded rectangle. I'm going to make sure my foreground color is this yellow, which is 255, 240. We're going to make a sign. I'm going to make sure my radius is 10. I'm going to make sure I have shape layers selected. So I'm going to draw out a rectangle. Press Shift to constrain it to a square. Let go. Press Control T to bring up the transform controls, rotate it, and press a check mark. Then I can just move this into position in the middle to make it easier to see. And I'm going to go over to my path side, double click it to accept the default. And you'll notice it down here has some options that we haven't talked about before. Now, I bet you didn't know that you can stroke a path or fill the background. That's pretty powerful, and you'll see that you have many options that you can use. But with shape layers, you don't have fill background or stroke path. You have just make selection. Okay? Or you can make a path from your selection. So you can actually make a selection and make a path from your selection. So that's kind of cool. What is interesting is you notice how it's kind of curvy. That doesn't make any sense, right? So let's Control Z. Let's press Alt, and this will bring up a tolerance value. Okay? The higher the tolerance, the fewer the anchor points, and the smoother it will become. So let's go from 2 to let's say 10, which is, I believe, the max. And you can see that it's a lot sharper. Let's go back, press Alt, make path from selection, and let's select 0.5. I believe that's the lowest. And as you can see, how it's kind of riggedy. So that's an option that you have. But you still don't have the stroke path or the fill selection. So that kind of bites. So I'm going to press Control D to deselect my selection. I'm going to erase these paths, both of them. And now I'm going to select a new layer. And I'm going to choose the rounded rectangle again. This time I'm going to choose Path. And this time I'm going to draw a path out. Press Shift to constrain it to a square. Press Control T. You can rotate a path and transform it. Alright, I'm going to go to my Path panel. I'm going to accept the default. And here, guess what? Now I have options available. I can't make a path from a selection because it's not a selection. I can make a selection. I can stroke my path. I can fill it. Now here's the interesting. If I fill this path, what is it going to fill it with? You get it. You got it. The foreground color. So let's go ahead and do it. And it fills it with the yellow color. Maybe I didn't want that yellow color. You can press Alt and click and it will bring up some menu options. You can choose a foreground color, background. You can even choose a pattern. So if we were to choose a pattern, I don't know, per se this one for example, it will fill it with that pattern. So if you click it, it will automatically accept the default. Now stroke is interesting. We're going to change this to black first. This is going to stroke the path with the default foreground color and a default selection. So this one's brush. Alright, so if I choose it, watch what happens. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, how did it know to give this kind of weight to the path? Right here. Whatever this is whatever we'll choose. So if I press Control Z and I go 40 and then I stroke it, you can see. Press Control Z and then we're going to go back to 4. And then we're going to stroke the path, and there's our 4. Now we're going to go back to the Layers panel, and we're going to put a dog in the middle. Now this gets a little bit interesting. You can use a path, but if you put a path, this creates a lot of other issues. I prefer to use the shape layers. Color is black, and then I'm going to choose the dog shape. Alright. And then draw my dog. Press the space bar to center it. And there we go. Shape layer fills it with the color, foreground color black. And what I like about this, it's on a separate layer and I can move the dog and it doesn't interfere. Alright, if for example I said Control Z a couple times and I used a path instead, watch what happens. Okay, let me move the space. Okay, that's great. It did the same thing, right? Oh, excuse me. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Path. This can drive you crazy sometimes, trust me. Okay, great. Alright, I got a path, so I go to my path panel, I accept it, great. I fill it with black. Oh, everything seems great. Oh, what's the problem? Well, if I use my path selection and I want to move the dog because it's in the wrong place, it moves the path. But guess what? The other one still stays there, so it doesn't help me. This is why I prefer to use shape layers and then draw the dog. We'll draw like a hot dog because it allows me the ability to move it. You'll notice here I've erased some of the layers, erased some of the paths. I just wanted to show you a couple more things before we end this tutorial. I'm going to select the square, I'm going to select paths, and I'm just going to draw a little path out here. Then I'm going to go over to my path panel, and I'm going to choose first, I'm going to go to my brush, and I'm going to choose a nice brush. Make sure my texture is in. Alright. There we go. And then I'm going to stroke the path with this brush. And you can see how you can create unique effects with the brush tool. So with the brush tool, with a path and a color, you can create some interesting frames, and then you can draw some things in here. Let's do another thing real quick here. Let me erase this. And actually, let me just go Control Z, is a lot quicker. Okay, you notice I've erased some of the layers and the path. I just wanted to show you just one more thing here real quick. You can use the polygon tool, use the path 5 sides, and we're going to choose star, and we're just going to draw a star out, real simple. And let me turn it and tilt it there. There we go. I'm going to go over to the path. I'm going to fill it with the foreground color. I'm going to press Alt, and I'm going to choose the smudge tool. But before I choose the smudge tool, I want to make sure that my smudge strength is 100%. Alright? Because remember, it uses these settings. So try this again, press OK, and look what happens. Isn't that neat? So you can create a neat little star in just seconds using path. So as you can see, we've created a unique little star. And something else we can further do, we can create a new layer first. Create a new layer first. Go over to the path, drag this path to the new layer, and create a new path copy. Right? Then we can go over to the path selection, drag it over a little. Alright. Fill it with the foreground color. I changed it. Go back over to fill stroke, use the smudge tool again, and now we have a set of stars which is kind of unique. So this is just the beginning of what you can do with paths and vectors.